Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana, and we're here today with special guest, Jenny Garufi, who's here to share with us her new book, The 3-Minute Shower Reset, 21 Days to Inner Peace. So can something as simple as your daily shower become a powerful tool for peace and transformation in your life? Well, today's guest is here to share with us just that. Jenny Garufi is an international best-selling author, intuitive healer, and mind-body-spirit mentor. She healed herself from chronic illness in just 3 weeks and has spent the last 20 years helping others transform their lives. She's the author of Soul Alchemy and A Short Path to Change, offering practical tools for self-love, mindfulness, and empowerment. So welcome to the show, Jenny Garufi.
Thanks so much, Marianne. I'm so grateful to be here.
Oh my goodness. Well, what an honor it is to have you here. I always love the time we get to spend together. And I've got to tell you, once I picked up this book, I could not put it down. It is such an impactful read. I mean,
Thank you.
oh my gosh, yes, I just love it. So, what inspired you to write this book?
There were definitely a few things that inspired me to write it. I have always loved water. My backstory is healing myself of 7 years of chronic disease in 3 weeks. Part of that was really tapping in the shower and using that time where my body was in such pain, so it would bring such relief for me. And then after healing, I've been teaching for 20 years. I always recommended like the three most powerful times to tap in to your self-talk and intuition is the morning, night, and in the shower. So it's kind of always been in the background. And then after my mom passed, she was my best friend and I really missed her. And the shower became almost like this other time of just like I could cry my eyes out. I could be very present and really just stop for a second and really invite in that healing element of water. I started studying shamanism after she passed as a way of I took a class how to transmute the feelings of grief through shamanism, and water and the elements are such a key part of shamanism. So it really introduced it in even a more in a deeper way for me. So water has always been restorative. I love easy exercises and it just seemed to be such a perfect fit. I did get this inspiration in the shower and I thought my mom might have a little bit to do with it. I know that little bits of time can really help you transform your day, and this just felt like a perfect fit and just started coming through me when I started writing it.
And so I'd like to dive into that a little bit because we've been friends for a while and I know your journey, and it's a really empowering journey that you've been on. So, what inspired you to transform your personal healing journey into this book?
Yeah, just those moments of consciousness are so important, really paying attention to how we're speaking to ourselves. Like everyone has 3 minutes in the shower. Like I think, even busy moms usually get a few minutes in the shower. And I know that I am someone that is recovering perfectionist, recovering people pleaser. I tend to think about a zillion things at a time. And when I was sick, I was focused on the pain. Pain is attention getting. And when I started to take those few moments to really focus on the things I was grateful for, whether that be my comfy bed that I could lay in, or the fact that I could read to my kids, even though I couldn't run after them the way I'd wanted, things just started to shift very quickly. I mean, 3 weeks I had healed myself physically when I was told I'd be in a wheelchair and there was no way I could heal myself. So I really became conscious of those little moments. And after working with clients 20 years and seeing their journeys as well, I saw how these moments of just reflection and of peace that you're inviting in can really reset your nervous system and allow in better energy, more flow into your life. So it really became almost like integral for me to incorporate my own experiences and my clients' experiences in how these little moments of time can truly change your life.
Can you share a defining moment when the 3-minute shower reset practice truly changed something in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I there's 2 points there. There's the shower in itself has always been a place of rejuvenation for me. When I turn my attention, it used to be not. It used to not be at all. It was a place of like, what do I have to do today? And I don't believe like, that person did that. And it used to be such a jumbled sense of time for me. Did I wash my hair? I don't even remember. There's so many things going on in my head. So when I started to make that time for myself, I really started to feel, because I take showers in the morning too, it was a very positive way to start my day. And then when I began writing the book, these exercises really just came so quickly to me, things that have helped me in my own life, things that have helped my clients. And it's always a good reminder to kind of teach these things, because then I go back to it. And when I'm in the shower, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll use that exercise today. So it was a really good, positive thing for me to get down for myself, some of the exercises that I use. And the more I was becoming aware of them, the more would come in the shower. I'd think of a new exercise. So it really helped me even deepen my own practice. And as I shared it with some of my clients, I just saw them go to this deeper level of healing and awareness. And while it begins in the shower, it continues out of the shower. The shower is really that starting point to get you used to knowing that 3 minutes can transform your day.
So, I know we've talked about your journey before about healing and overcoming years of chronic pain. How did that experience shape your relationship with mindfulness and self compassion?
It totally, it totally transformed it. When you're in pain, unfortunately, most times when you're in pain or diagnosed with a chronic illness, you are not extra kind to yourself. You're sad about the things you can't do. You insult yourself about the way you can't show up for people, or the ways you feel like you're failing yourself or your loved ones. Pain is attention getting. I was in chronic pain for 7 years, mostly in my legs. And, when your leg hurts, or when a part of your body hurts, it's really challenging to not put your focus there. But, energy expands when you put your focus on it. So by putting my focus on my legs and saying, ow, my legs, I don't know if I'm going to be able to walk down the stairs today. Can I drive my kids to school? I was really perpetuating that pain. I wasn't allowing that pain space to transform. Whereas when I started to change my inner dialogue and start focusing on my hands, your hands usually didn't hurt, my fingers, I'm so grateful there are healthy cells in my body. When I started focusing on the love I did have for my legs for the last, however many decades, really focusing on, I'm so grateful my legs have allowed me to walk for so long, to dance countless hours, to do all these have all these wonderful experiences. It switches your energy up and it allows in for healing. So it began with my physical healing. I think it had to for me, because when I was, in bed, I really felt like I couldn't do anything else. It wasn't motivated to figure out how I could do a career, because I was in bed in pain most of the time. So healing physically was the first step. I did not know that I could heal physically by changing my mind. I just knew that I hadn't tried that before, and I had graduated with a BA in psychology. I but when you're sick and when you're getting these diagnoses, it's really hard to not default to the doctors, default to what you're being told, what the experts are telling you. So it was really kind of a taking my power back and watching how I spoke to myself, which was so awful. It was so, so awful. I was always insulting myself about how much pain I was in and how I couldn't show up for myself and the kids, and what a bad mom I was. And I know so many people do this from experiencing with clients that have chronic pain. So it really does begin with like that. those couple of minutes of listening to yourself, and the shower allows for that because that's usually a time where we do have that peace and, usually no phones in the shower. So we can actually get away from all the noise and tune inwards.
So, what role did gratitude play in your healing process?
Gratitude was truly the most important part of my healing process. We have about 60,000 thoughts a day, about 80% are negative, and about 95% are the same exact ones as yesterday. That really doesn't give us much of a chance for our energy to switch up. Gratitude was key in focusing on, because it's love and like excitement and joy. It's really allowing in for something else. So when I started to be grateful for my comfy bed, for the little parts of me that weren't in pain, for the fact that I could lay in bed, that at the time, my husband was supporting me and my mom would come over and help with the kids. Like, it really switches everything. I think gratitude is the most important and key ingredient to switching up our life because, Marianne, I mean, I don't watch the news anymore, but if you tune into the news, it's always the most horrific stories first. We're really programmed from an early age to just look at the bad and focus on the negative. And that really doesn't allow in for any healing energy. One of the most important things I learned from the Secret movie was, our body's always recreating itself. We're 99.9% new in 11 months. So where we focus our attention and energy, like that helps create those cells. So when I was repeating to myself, I am sick, I'm in pain, I really wasn't allowing in for that healing. But when I switched it to, I'm so grateful I can lay here. I'm so grateful I have the ability to read. I loved reading. I'm so grateful I have the ability to listen to these videos with inspiring words in them. Everything just started switching up. And I've noticed that with my clients too, when you start switching to gratitude, it's like the magic sauce of life.
Gratitude, such a big difference in our journey. And I think a lot of times people just forget to tap into that piece.
Yeah, we are kind of programmed to focus on the negative, and there are so many distractions now, especially with oh, look over here, this horrible thing is happening. Oh, look over here, this horrible thing is happening. And as empathic beings, like it can be really challenging to tap into what we're grateful for. And sometimes people even feel guilty for saying that they're really happy. When you ask someone in the street, like, or run into someone, how are you doing? A lot of people will be like, oh, well, this is happening and this hurts. And some people can feel even guilty being like, you know what? I am fantastic. Life is great. You know what? This great thing happened and this great thing happened. Because when we see other people struggling, it can be hard to like claim that, you know what, life's pretty good. But by doing that, we really have that ripple effect, a smile, a thank you. Those things really carry energy and can really change someone else's day.
So, how did your background as this, because I know you're such a profound mindfulness teacher and intuitive guide, how did that influence the structure of this book?
It really did. It's funny, so did my just the way my mind works. Like I like being inspired when I write. I sit down and say, okay, what wants to come through me? So when I was writing, I really wanted to write a few different sections of way of exercises. So gratitude had to be first, because I love gratitude and it is the most important thing for switching your life and it can be done in a few minutes. So I had 9 exercises. My first 9 exercises, actually 10, are on gratitude. Chapter 2 is really about water, really embracing the power of water. And that has played such an important impact on my life. One of the other things is Dr. Emoto's work on water, where he studied water crystals, and water that had kind, loving words spoke to it created this beautiful crystals. And water that had like negative words spoken to it created really not very pretty images. And that really reflects our body because our body is made of water. So it reflects the cells. So learning about that too, I knew it was really important to highlight water. And then the third chapter is using water to help feel empowered. And that is really a lot of what I've learned and helped my clients do the last 20 years, like really being in touch with our emotions, using affirmations, using daily intentions, using mantras, tapping into the amazing exercise of havening. I really wanted to give people other ways that maybe they could think about things and switch their mindset up in that last chapter of exercises. And then chapter 4 is really ways to adapt these exercises for the bathtub and for life. Sometimes people love taking baths. I know I love my baths too. I don't want this book to exclude those people. And I want these exercises to really be incorporated into every part of your life. You're stressed, you have a business meeting coming up. You know what? Go to the restroom, wash your hands and think about one of these exercises, take 3 minutes, in your car before going into the office and do one of these exercises. While water enhances these exercises, 90% of them can be done out of the water, but doing them in the shower every day really starts your day off well. Most people shower in the morning or at night or ends your day well. And it really just gets you in the habit of being like, hey, how am I doing? By the way, most of us don't even check in and see how we're doing, but oh, I'm feeling a little stressed. Maybe I'll use one of these exercises. So I've talked for a long time about the little moments of the day, little windows of time we have. We can even do these exercises where while we're washing dishes, we're feeling the water while we're changing laundry, moments where we're usually like complaining in our heads about, oh, another loaded dishes or another little laundry I have to do. Really? Like we're stressed out and thinking about the next thing we have to do. So, really, by incorporating it into the shower, it's really starting off the practice. And I really wanted my book to be outlined in a way where you're starting with gratitude, you're moving to the water, you're moving to how to apply this to your life, and then, yeah, really taking this forward. Like, let me take this into every moment of my life. Let me take this into 5 different times during the day. I really wanted this to empower people to kind of take their own power back and regain control of their mind and learn how to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting like a lot of us are doing these days.
Well, water carries such an intelligence. I'm so glad you brought up Dr. Emoto. I think that that just highlights the healing powers and the intelligence that water carries, and to be able to incorporate this powerful practice in our day with things that we do every day, like showering. Because a lot of times people say, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time to meditate. I don't have enough time to, do the yoga or whatever that thing is. But when we're in the shower, we definitely have time.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is it. I hear that as the number one thing. I don't have time to meditate. And people have this this image of, meditating the yogi on the mountain, cross-legged, oming for like hours on end. Like we don't have time for that. This is a busier time than ever. We all have things pulling us in a million different directions, but you can take those 3 minutes in the shower. I'm not even asking you to take your whole shower time, but this is time that you have where it's just like a, hey, I'm going to take this time for me and I deserve this time. It's also really a reclaiming of that like self-love and self-worth. Like I do deserve this time. It can be a spa-like experience. Water is a healing element. Why not invite in that healing? Why not invite in that appreciation for even that running water that we're lucky enough to have, that not everyone does have that luxury.
In your book, you talk about how water is both a cleansing and empowering energy. How can people begin to connect with that intentionality?
It is really about knowing that water does, I mean, we use water to cleanse, to wash our clothes. We use water to wash our dishes. We use water to, clean things. So really looking at it as, yes, it's cleaning us physically, but how can it help us to cleanse our bodies? Like really wash away the energy that is stagnant, the energy that we don't want around us. Maybe we're with a difficult person that day. Like, how can we really tune into that energy of it to feel its cleansing power instead of it being some like, routine that we just do every day. Oh, I got to shower, let me wash myself as fast as possible so I can get on to the next thing. Really taking that water to embrace that time. And, water is so healing. I love like the Buddhist like imagery of like water flowing around the rocks. It's in flow. And when we return to that flow, we know when we're in flow, like things get done. When we are like struggling or stuck on something or trying to control, we can feel the difference. So really leaning into that flow of water, leaning into the comfort that water brings. How good does it feel on your back if your back's sore, or your shoulders? How good does it feel like on your head as you're like just washing your hair and washing everything kind of away, like really tapping into the moment and feeling the water instead of just being in a routine, and knowing that water does cleanse, water does heal, and we're made of water. So it makes sense that we can tap into that power, and just it can feed us in so many different ways. We know we're supposed to drink a lot of water, but it can feed us in so many different ways than the ways we've just been taught. Like, okay, drink a lot of water, but what if you're under it and you really embrace the power of it? We've seen the power of water. We know the power of water in an ocean, but how can we feel that power of water and the beauty of water on us? That calm that like sitting by a lake or a river brings, how can we bring that into our life and really feel into it on a deeper level?
So I wanted to kind of touch on something that you mentioned and you've been talking a little bit about is for those people who just don't have time. So how can someone who struggles to slow down begin to make their daily shower a sacred moment?
They can do it a few different ways. They can start with the intention that, I'm leaving my phone out of the shower when I go in, unless you're reading, this exercise on your phone, but I'm taking it out. I'm going to go in the shower, and this is my mindfulness time. So there's a few different ways to do it. You could start off and look in the mirror and just say to yourself, this is my mindfulness time. This is my time for me. This is my spa time. I get this time to do whatever I want. No one's yelling at me to I am leaving all the requests behind. I'm leaving the pings on my phone behind. I'm really taking this time for me. Or, when you get in the shower, just at the first, like, be set that water to the most comfortable temperature for yourself, and as you're stepping into it, just almost sigh with relief. Ah, you're in there. You're at peace. No one's knocking at the door. You have this time for yourself, really setting that time. I'm going to set this time. This is my meditation time. This is my mindfulness time. This is my time I get to really tap into how I'm doing, even if you're just getting in the shower and saying, how am I doing today? And how can I show up for myself? What exercise from this book can I bring in that will really bring in a little peace right now? And there's so many different ways to use the book. You can, flip to a page and see what jumps out at you. You can skim and say, okay, I really am feeling like I want that connection to nature. I'm going to do the gratitude for nature exercise. You can use so many different ways to really tap into that intentionality of that day. And I am taking that time for me. It's really an act of self love, too.
One of the biggest challenges people face is time, and that's something we've really been touching on. How does this method remove that barrier?
Well, everyone has that time. So it's really just time that you are saying, I'm going to use this for something differently. I'm going to use this to really embrace myself and use this time for myself and love this time for myself, and not focus on the distractions, not focus on the things that, easily would take you away from the moment. Just really focus on that moment. There's so many powerful things. My book has 21 exercises of things you use in that moment to bring in peace and love and joy. So it's really a refocusing, and telling yourself, you might have to remind yourself, in the morning, my shower is my mindfulness time. But you can utilize that time that you already have to really bring in the sense of peace, love, joy, and begin your day or end your day, or maybe wash off your day after work in a much more powerful way.
I love how you put that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. So, for those who feel intimidated by traditional meditation, how is this practice different?
It's easy. You're really not doing anything other than tapping in and taking 3 minutes to use one of these easy exercises. So meditation can seem daunting because we're told, okay, quiet your mind. Yeah. Yeah, right. As someone that has a very busy mind, like my meditation practice looks kind of funny because I'm doing like three things at a time. I'm doing taking breaths, I'm doing energy, I'm repeating a mantra, like, and even that is like, okay, that's that layering. But in the shower, it's so beautiful because you already have water, which is the healing element. You have the quiet. Usually most people do take showers in the quiet, or maybe you have some gentle music going in the background. And you can just take these 3 minutes to utilize like one of these tools and quickly bring in a sense of peace, quickly bring in some joy. I mean, if you start doing these exercises, like you'll recognize very quickly after doing them, hey, wait, I feel a lot better. I had a client that said, she just turns to a page every day, a different page, and will be like, oh, this is exactly what I needed today. So really give yourself, I made them really easy. It's like 1 minute to read the like little prequel of the exercise and, a minute to read the exercise. So even if you're really busy, you could just turn to an exercise and do it without reading the prequel, the paragraphs before. I made it so simple so that because I want people to not have that excuse. It's very different than saying, okay, I got to quiet my mind. It's really just tuning your attention into mindfulness. Like, okay, I'm going to take my time and I am going to pay gratitude for this thing. I'm going to take my time and repeat this mantra that makes me calm. I am going to take this time for me and use this tool to bring me to the present moment instead of trying to just say, okay, I'm going to quiet my mind, which sometimes is very, very challenging to do.
Oh boy, is that. But it's interesting when we're in a shower, at least for me. I know a lot of times my mind checks out. So I'm in this very quiet place where I can really just not really be thinking a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, it's a perfect time for that. And if you utilize these exercises too, it's like bringing in that deeper sense of like intention or peace or love or whatever emotion it is that you need to support yourself. I mean, water is so healing. And I love that you have those moments of just peace. I know, when you're in a pool and you're like floating, like there's nothing more calm, than floating in water and just feeling that like that weightlessness, that warmth. I take very warm showers. So for me, it's always like, oh, I love this. It feels so warm and healing on my body.
So in your book, you speak about resetting energy and attention. So, how does this daily practice affect mindset over the long term?
It starts with those 3 minutes, and I'm hoping that people, will take even longer, be like, hey, this feels nice. Maybe I'll extend this. But when we start paying attention to how good we can feel in 3 minutes, it starts going throughout our day. Like when we get stressed out and maybe we would react to someone, say, in traffic, or someone said something negative to you. Like my hope is that people will then start being like, hey, wait, I can reset myself in 3 minutes. Maybe I will take time at my desk. Maybe I will take time in another room. Maybe I will take time, as I'm sitting in this traffic, to not curse the people in front of me, but really sink into, things I'm grateful for. So I really want people to be able to see how easy it is in 3 minutes and to feel that switch, to feel that sense of wellness, and to be like, hey, if I can do that in the shower, I can do that other places too. I can bring these exercises with me. I can use them throughout the day. Hey, I mean, Marianne, we're human, things are going to set us off. Things are going to trigger us. I'm not asking for everyone to walk around, with rainbows and butterflies, all the time. That's not life. But sometimes we just get so caught up, we go down that negative rabbit hole, and that doesn't help anything. So, my goal is, I'm a little more mindful now. Hey, I've been practicing this stuff over 20 years, it works, and it gets easier and easier the more you practice. Not saying I don't get triggered, but I'm not 2 hours into that trigger. In a few moments I can be like, "Really? Do you want to spend your time obsessing over this, or do you want to use a tool to really give yourself some support and process this stuff and move on?" So that is my goal. We can't help anyone if we're in this negative spiral. It starts with us. We are the ones in control of our mood. Yes, things can affect us, but we choose how to respond and hopefully, not react from that just irritated space or trigger, but really be calm because everyone's got a lot of stuff going on. So really recognizing that too, that we don't know what someone else is going through. Guaranteed everyone on the planet at this time is going through a lot. So when we start showing up for ourselves, there is that ripple effect. People will notice, hey, you're a lot calmer. What are you doing? And ask you, and your relationships get better too, because you're in this place of calm. You're not replaying maybe what someone did to you you know, 20 years ago, or what someone does repetitively that gets on your nerves. You're really learning how to focus on what brings you joy, what brings you gratitude, and it really does switch everything in your life.
Well, I've actually heard, and it kind of goes with what we're talking about, is the less reactive we are about past, present things, the more peaceful we are. And wouldn't we like to be in a place of inner peace?
That's the goal, right? To feel peaceful and to spread that peace and love. And yeah, we're really not given tools of how to move past like trauma and things in the past. So many people do feel almost like that revenge, or they'll feel, like they've been victimized and stay in that energy. And when we don't forgive, when we don't move on, whether it's ourselves or someone else, we're really keeping ourselves tethered to that past. We're not allowing ourselves to move forward. And in processing those emotions, in showing up for ourselves with a ton of compassion for what we've been through, instead of being in the victimization mode of it, but to show up with compassion and love, it really does switch the energy. A pivotal moment I had when I was grieving my mom was, it occurred to me one day. I said to myself, I'm so sorry for your loss, Jen. Wow, what a hard loss you had. You lost your best friend. Like, I bawled my yeah, I bawled so much, but like it helped. It shifted something in me that, I could show up for that with that compassion for myself, instead of feeling, victimized by the grief. Of course, still missed my mom, but it shifted something inside of me. When we show up with compassion for ourselves, instead of repeating the same way we've been looking at something, things shift. Our life can shift from that point because we're not keeping ourselves stuck.
What are some of the most common breakthroughs you've seen from people using this method?
Whole lot more joy in their life, a whole lot more self love, and not being in the same patterns they were, because it allows for introspection. I'll give you an example, like in relationships, there was a couple where, the husband was gone all day, working, and she was home with the kids, and she'd come home and want to like just throw the kids at him, like here, but meanwhile, he was a doctor and saw people complaining all day and, had a lot of work. But when, she started using the gratitude for, being able to stay home with their kids and being supported and, that he helps people during the day and that she gets to look forward to when he comes home. Like when we start changing the story and start looking at it differently, like their marriage started to change. Like, so one of the things is like relationships can really change when we start looking at them a little differently. Everyone wants to feel that gratitude for them. No one really wants to feel like put upon, all the time. So things can start to change in relationships. Things can start to change in self love to really appreciate yourself. Like if you're repeating some pattern, like, or a statement in your head, like, I'm not good at relationships. I always pick the wrong person. And you start looking at it and be like, hey, maybe why did I pick those people? Like maybe I didn't have that self-worth for myself and maybe I do deserve more, and start tapping into the gratitude for yourself for the things you do have. You know what? I'm kind of funny, and you know what? I like to give to people and I love to cook for people. And, really tapping into your gifts, it switches that self love too. So, I mean, self love and relationships are two of the key things I've seen really change.
I love how this gives us the opportunity to have some compassion and some heartfelt just emotion to the person we were yesterday, because we are always growing and evolving. And to be able to be in a place where we could say, well, maybe I didn't have enough information, or I was in a different place, it allows us to come and view ourselves from a very kind position.
Yeah. Yeah, we're so hard on ourselves. We're usually our worst enemies. Like we will say, "Oh, that person doesn't like me," but guaranteed that person isn't thinking about you like 1/100th of the time as you're putting yourself down. Everyone's so wrapped up in themselves and what they need to do to get through the day and hopefully be, a good version of themselves. And so when we show up for compassion with ourselves, it switches the energy around. It switches the energy around of what we're putting out too. I've had clients that call themselves like Debbie Downers because they've been a victim their whole life. I'm not making light of these things. There are people that have lived horrific lives and have had experiences, with abuse, and then they pick a relationship where they have more abuse, and, really showing up for yourself with that kind, loving, non-judgment, be like, wow, maybe if I started shifting to a place of self-love and owning, my gifts and why I'm here, like I wouldn't attract maybe these wounded birds or the people looking for me to save them. Like I can say to myself, like, I'm worthy of more. And it can begin now. And it doesn't matter what happened in the past. I learned from those experiences. I mean, I really want people to be able to look at it that way. Like every lesson we've had, especially the hard ones, we've learned from. So if we can take that lesson away, that's a gift. I know we look at, the good times as good and the bad times as bad, but at some of the toughest times, I mean, those 7 years sick taught me a lot about myself. You know, the the times I've had relationships where things were not great taught me a lot about myself. Healing from different friendships and relationships, the hindsight is 2020 sometimes. And that allows you to take this deeper look of compassion. And I know we like to analyze ourselves like, oh, why did I do that? And some of that is great, but it's also, can you just love yourself unconditionally? I know that whatever, we're all doing the best we can from our state of consciousness. If I picked that relationship, I must have been in a lot of pain or not really love myself enough. And that's okay. Like I forgive myself for that. I've moved on. So the more we show ourselves this deep compassion, the more we give ourselves that permission to really step into our power and really like create this life of goodness and ease.
I think it's so important to come from a place where we can really step into our personal power And in your book, you share about how this practice can help support individuals navigating really like the really tough stuff like stress and grief and burnout. Can you share on that for us?
Yeah, I mean, it is important to recognize our emotions because a lot of times we will numb out. There's Netflix, there's, shopping, there's so many different ways to like numb out and self-soothe. And can we give ourselves compassion for that too? Like, can we be like, hey, wow, I've really been using Netflix to numb out. And a little bit of self-soothing isn't bad, but if you're not facing your emotions, they're just going to manifest in a different way. That energy has to go somewhere. So, I know in hindsight that my illnesses were, a lot of them were caused by my perfectionism, by my people pleasing, by my like literally like swallowing stuff and feeling like uncomfortable walking on this planet because it was so heavy. There were so many people I needed to please. There was, you know, and I hadn't really dealt with, my own abuse from sexual abuse from childhood. So, really, in giving ourselves permission to looking at that stuff objectively, but also subjectively in like if you had a friend or a loved one that went through that experience, would you be beating them up about it? Would you be replaying it, telling them about it every single day over and over again? My guess is no. So really like how can we give ourselves permission to transmute this energy to more powerful energy like wow, I made it through that time. You know what? I am tough. I am resilient. I am powerful. Other people would have crumbled and not been able to make it through that time. How can we reframe things to give ourselves permission to move on? Because that's what it really is. Like we can stay stuck. It's easy to just repeat the same patterns over and over again. It's comfy in our even if we're like uncomfortable, in our comfort zone, it's comfier to just stay there. But is that what you want? I mean, really asking ourselves, like, how do we become the best version of ourselves? What do we want for our future? Do we want love in our life? Whether that's a relationship or friends, do we want, joy? What does that look like? Do we love a certain vehicle like art or music, or do we give ourselves time and permission to do that? We really control our own lives, but we get so distracted, Marianne. And there's so many distractions now, like there's 20 distractions a day, between our phone and laptops and just things being thrown at us, there's so many. And again, that's why the shower is so important. Like really taking that time. No one bothers you. Usually no one bothers you in the shower. That is usually your doors closed. This is my time. Even if you have kids, usually your kids will give you some alone time in the shower. Like claiming that time back. You know what? I'm gonna take this time and I'm gonna maybe look at how I've been feeling about this certain issue, from the past or challenge, and how can I show up for myself with more compassion? How can I show up today as the best version of myself and as my best friend instead of my harshest critic?
It's really putting ourselves out as a priority.
It's important, if we're not, who will? We do teach people how to treat us. And, I know that, my mom was an overgiver, and I know I kind of got that from her, and it's challenging, as a mom too. Like I know a lot of women are just they're overgivers. Like we're taught to be the nurturers and carers, and whether you're a mom or not, sometimes it's, a parent or it's a friend, it's someone that we just keep giving. But we're taught, on the airplane, put your mask on first before you can, help someone else. Like we know these things, but it's so hard for us to give ourselves permission to do that. And, I will say that was, one of the few gifts I did get after dealing with grief when my mom passed, just like taking the time to be like, no, I'm not up for it. I'm grieving. Like, I'm going to take this time for myself, and really that owning, like, it's okay to say no. It's
Mm.
okay to want to put yourself first and to know that by putting yourself first, you show up better for everyone around you. So it is necessary for you to give yourself that permission because you'll feel better. And then that has that ripple effect. And you're giving from a place you can give to others, but you're giving from that place of fullness and not from depletion. Because if you're given from depletion, guaranteed there's going to be either conscious or subconscious resentment, exhaustion. Some people even get like, caretaker fatigue or disease themselves because they're giving too much. So, really, it always does begin with us.
Isn't that the truth? We really have to have that time for ourselves. And what I love about your book is you designed 21 exercises. How did you decide on these specific practices?
Well, I knew gratitude was first, and as I mentioned, I think I have 10 exercises, 9 in the first chapter of gratitude, and then the water chapter begins with gratitude. Uh, I knew that I wanted to show people that there's so many different ways to express gratitude. It's not just like, oh, I'm happy, I'm alive today. Like there are so many different ways to go a little deeper into it. So it was really important for me to show, yeah, there's limitless ways, but to at least give guidance on 10 different ways to dive into gratitude. I also knew it was so important for this book to focus on water because there's a reason why I'm having people do this in the shower. Yes, I hope they continue these exercises out of the shower, but the shower makes water makes things more powerful. It is a healing element. So I knew I had to incorporate that. And then the third chapter of exercise is really about that empowerment. I want people to feel those shifts. I want people to be like, okay, I've done the gratitude, I've done the water exercises. Now I'm ready. Now I'm ready for the affirmations. Now I'm ready to invite in even deeper healing. Now I'm ready to get in touch with my emotions. Now I'm ready to do this physical exercise of havening and learn how to deepen this. So it just felt like a natural progression and it came very easily, which I took as a good sign I was on the right track of these are really kind of easy accessible exercises. This is my first, Marianne. I mentioned this is the first book in the series, but this is really about the mind and mindfulness and how to start tapping into that inner voice and start making this time for yourself.
If someone had time to only do one exercise from your book, which one should they start with?
I would say the gratitude for self because we don't often give ourselves gratitude. We often beat ourselves up. It's very uncomfy. I know that after writing my first book, that's when we met, from Llewellyn, I was, a little disappointed. I wasn't getting the reviews or the feedback I wanted. And I met with a mentor and he said, have you given yourself gratitude for writing the book and, for the reviews that came in? And I was like, oh yeah, I said thank you, for the reviews. He's like, like I want you to sink into gratitude for you writing the book and for showing up for yourself and all the hours you spent writing. And Marianne, I was bawling, like it's so uncomfy. We're so much more used to beating ourselves up, but we all have so many gifts to share. How many moms give themselves credit for like packing their kids' lunches, or for showing up that for that friend that's going through a hard time? Like we don't stop. We just expect more and more and more of ourselves. But when we give ourselves gratitude, we're really filling ourselves up with love. And that's really a much more powerful way to start the day.
It really puts things more into balance because I think a lot of times people have a hard time really appreciating just ourselves, like the work that we do throughout the day and looking for those wins.
Yeah, we don't hesitate to like beat ourselves up about the one thing we wish we said differently or something else, but we do hesitate to give ourselves credit. But if you look at it like, would you do that to a pet? Would you be like, bad dog all the time, and not, how many times you're like, good boy, you're the best, or would you do that to a kid, God forbid, a baby? You would feed them with love and positive affirmations and validation. So we really need to start making that a habit to do that for ourselves.
Well, Jenny, you're such an inspiration. What do you hope readers will take away from this book?
I hope they will gain inner peace, that it can be really easy to reclaim that peace in short periods of time. It begins in the shower, but it continues throughout your day for you to take that pause. You're the only one that can give yourself permission for that pause to regain that sense of peace instead of maybe going down a negative rabbit hole, and spiraling. I really just want people to feel better and more empowered.
Well, Jenny, where can people connect with you, be part of your community, and learn more about your book?
Well, they can go to my website, Jenny Garufi, JennyGarufi.com. They could go to Amazon and order a copy. They could join me on Substack, Jenny Garufi, at Substack. And I love connecting with people. If you go to my website, there are 2 ebooks there that also invite in peace. I just really love helping people. I know that, again, as a recovering perfectionist, recovering people pleaser, it can be really challenging to get out of our own way, but when we start to, life really unfolds in magical ways.
Well, Jenny, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you so much, Marianne. It's always such a joy to speak with you.
Well, Jenny, it's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, The 3-Minute Shower Reset. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.